It is a rainy November morning, and really I think that's kind of the perfect weather, the perfect time to share with you the books I want to share with you today. So, hi, I'm Kim, and this is an oasis of books, and I want to share with you a video all about some of my favorite cozy mystery series to enjoy during the fall and winter months. Now, some of these you might be familiar with, but I don't think you'll know all of them. I've got 16 different series broken into 4 broad categories, really popular categories that I think for sure you'll be able to find something you will very much enjoy reading. So in October, I shared a couple of cozy videos with you. One was about cozy books of all sorts of genres, and another was about cozy fall food books. And I kept mentioning I was going to bring you a video all about cozy mysteries, and this is that video. Now, I want to assure you, though, that I am going to bring you more cozy mysteries in the coming weeks and months. And that's because there's just so many of them and they're just so good. And also because there's something for everyone. There are so many different themes. So yes, I'm going to bring you this big selection today that I love so much. And then in December, I'm going to bring you another, and it's going to be all about unusually themed cozy mysteries. And boy, do I have some winners in that video. After that, I'm probably going to do a series, one a month probably, of cozy mysteries that are centered on a very specific theme. Those I'll go a little deeper into and maybe bring you 3 to 5 mystery series within that theme. But for today, we're going to do 16 different series set in 4 categories. So grab a cup of your favorite hot beverage and sit back, relax, and hopefully find some great new reads. Now, one rule I have for all the books I'm going to be sharing with you today is that I've either read the series, read part of the series, or I have read the author in another series they've written, and I can highly recommend them. So first up, I have the craft category of cozy mysteries, and I've got 3 series for you in this category. First up in the craft category is the Haunted Yarn Shop mystery series. So there are 6 books in this series that is written by Molly MacRae, and the first one is Last Wool and Testament. The 6th one came out in August 2020, which makes me think the series is complete, and it's called Cruel and Unusual. So let me read you a little bit about this series. Kath Rutledge is about to learn the true meaning of TGIF. Thank goodness it's fiber. That's the name of the spunky group of fiber and needlework artists founded by Ivy McClellan, Kath's beloved grandmother. Though Ivy has recently passed on, the members still meet regularly at her fiber and fabric shop, The Weaver's Cat, which Kath has now inherited. But that's only the first in a series of surprises when Kath returns to the small town of Blue Plum, Tennessee, to settle her grandmother's affairs. There's been a murder, and it seems her grandmother was the prime suspect. Before Kath can begin to clear Ivy's name, she encounters a looming presence in the form of a gloomy ghost. It turns out the specter has just as much interest in solving the murder as Kath does. So, with a little help from the members of TGIF and a stubborn spirit from beyond, she sets out to unravel the clues and hook the real killer. So, if you like a crafting theme with a bit of paranormal element to it, this might be the series for you. Now, the second series in the crafting category is this one, a Craft Fair Knitters mystery series by Emmie Caldwell. By the way, Emmie Caldwell is also known as Mary Ellen Hughes, and she writes other mysteries too. But this one has 3 in it. It's a trilogy complete, the last one published in 2022. The second one is Stitched in Crime, and the third, the last, Knits, Knots, and Knives. But let's talk about the first one, A Wicked Yarn. What is this series about? Well, it's kind of obvious in the name, a Crafters Fair Knitters mystery series. A killer may craft the perfect crime, but as every knitter worth her yarn knows, murder wool out. Mother's Day should be a cinch for the good folks of the Crandallsburg Craft Fair, and knitting enthusiast Leah Geiger has a good feeling about this year's yield. But things quickly get naughty when Leah's daughter announces she's taking time off from her job, and Leah finds herself tangled up in the murder of her best friend's ex-husband. While Belinda's alibi gets her off the hook, nasty rumors spread throughout Crandallsburg that shroud the entire fair in suspicion. Could the vendors be responsible for the murder of a man hell-bent on unraveling the fair just days before his death? Leah and her crafty group of 9th Street knitters must put down their needles and gather clues so they can save the crafting community that they have grown to love. Now, I love Emmie Caldwell. I've read several of her books, and I've read this whole trilogy. Very, very good. The writing is good, but it's also just a great community, a really nice small town feel. And I mean, crafters fairs, you really can't go wrong with that for the cozy feel. And third up, this series in the crafting category is fantastic. It's called The Weaving Mysteries by Carol Ann Martin, #1, Looming Murder. Now, there are 4 books in this series, which was completed in 2014. The second book is Tapestry of Lies, the third, Weave of Absence, and the fourth, Loom and Doom. Now, one thing I love about cozy mysteries is that they almost always have either tips or recipes in the back of them. And this series is no different. It has weaving tips. So it talks about how to choose your loom, and it even gives you ideas on how to start a friendship bracelet and a friendship blanket. So this series follows Della Wright. She comes to peaceful and picturesque Briar Hollow at the foot of the Blue Ridge Mountains to realize her lifelong dream of owning a weaving studio. To promote her new business, Dreamweaver, Della is offering weaving workshops for all levels of ability. And in her first class, she meets a half dozen of the town's colorful characters who seem as eager to gossip as to learn how to work a loom. But when a shady local businessman is found murdered, Briar Hollow suddenly appears a lot less idyllic. And when one of her weaving students is suspected of the crime, Della can't help getting entangled in the investigation with some help from her criminologist friend Matthew. But can she weave together clues as well as she weaves together yarn and stop a killer from striking again? So again, 4 books in this series, a great one to snuggle up with this fall or winter. Well, I said I was going to give you 3 series in this category, but actually I'm going to give you a bonus. The #4 craft series I want to share with you is from Betty Hechtman. It is the Yarn Retreat Mystery Series. Now, I have reviewed before Betty Hechtman's other series, her Crochet Mysteries, which I absolutely love. They're so funny. But this is a series she's done more recently. There's 10 books in it now. This is book #1, Yarn to Go. And in this series, Casey inherits a yarn retreat shop from her deceased aunt. And the thing is, Casey doesn't even know how to knit. In fact, she is a dessert chef. But the yarn retreat shop, which by the way is named Yarn to Go, but with the number 2 rather than the word 2 in the middle, it's located on the gorgeous Northern California coast, Monterey Bay Peninsula. So, well, let's see what book 1 is about. Chef Casey Feldstein doesn't know a knitting needle from a crochet hook, but after her aunt dies unexpectedly, leaving Casey to run the yarn retreat business, the sweets baker finds herself rising to the occasion and trying to unravel a mystery. When Casey decides to go ahead and host the last yarn retreat her aunt had scheduled, despite her complete lack of experience as a knitter, she's at least comforted by the fact that she's on the beautiful Monterey Peninsula. But the idyllic setting is soured when a retreat regular is found murdered in her hotel room. Feeling a sense of responsibility, Casey begins to weave the clues together and detects a pattern which may shed light on her aunt's suspicious death. Despite the danger, the last thing Casey plans to do is retreat. She'll catch this killer or die trying. Now, the covers on these books are fantastic, and I have a few more to show you. as I said, I've just recently started reading this series. I've read 3 books so far, and I love them. Book number 2, Silence of the Lamb's Wool. Book number 3, Wound Up in Murder. And book number 4, Gone with the Wool. Now, because I didn't get these books as they came out, I'm just searching for them everywhere. And you really can find good deals on the used book sites online or at your local thrift stores or used library sales. And I've managed to find books 1 through 4 and books 9 and 10. Here we've got book number 9, which is Not a Game, and book number 10, the final book in the series so far, which is Not Dead Again. Aren't those covers amazing? I love Betty Hechtman's covers. The second category of cozy mysteries I have for you is the senior sleuth mysteries. Now, I will amend that by saying the first 2 series I'm going to share with you in this category are definitely seniors. The third one, I beg to differ. The main character, the protagonist, is actually only 52 years old, so middle-aged, which I think is really cool because we don't get a lot of middle-aged sleuths in cozy mysteries, even in classic mysteries, actually. We tend to get young and old, but here we have one in the third series I'm going to share with you of a 52-year-old widow, and it's a great one, but more on that one later. First up, the 2 actual senior sleuth mysteries. Now, you might think I'm going to share with you about Agatha Christie and Miss Marple. That would be a great selection. I do love Agatha Christie and all of her mysteries, including the Miss Marple ones. But no, I'm not going to share those with you. And you could think I'm going to share with you the Thursday Murder Club. But no, I already shared about the Thursday Murder Club in a recent video, so we're going to skip over that one for now. First up, I have for you a Silver Six mystery series. Technically, when they first started this series, it was called the Silver Six Crafting Mystery Series, and there are crafts involved. But it's really focused on the senior group that it's all about. Now, the main protagonist in this series is actually Nixie, the niece of, well, Aunt Sherry, one of the senior Silver Six, but they feature in it highly, and it is what makes the series so fun, so entertaining, just so good. Now, this series is written by Nancy Haddock and is a complete trilogy. The first one is Basket Case. The second one, Paint the Town Dead. And the third one, A Crime of Poison. But let me tell you more about it. There isn't much crime in Lilyville, Arkansas, but local authorities have their hands full with Ms. Sherry Mae Stanton Cutler and her housemates, a crafty group of retirees who've dubbed themselves the Silver Six. But when Sherry Mae's niece Nixie arrives to keep them in line, Lilyville also plays host to a killer. When Leslie Stanton, Nixie Nix, gets the latest call from Lilyville detective Eric Shore, she knows it means trouble. There's been another kitchen explosion at her Aunt Sherry's farmhouse, and the dreamy-voiced detective has had enough. If Nixie doesn't check on her aunt in person, the Silver Six could become wards of the court. But the trouble Nixie finds in Lilyville is not at all what she expects. The seniors are hosting a folk art festival at the farmhouse featuring Sherry's handwoven baskets when land developer Jill Elsman arrives to bully Nixie's aunt into selling the property. When Jill is later found dead in the cemetery, Sherry is suspected of weaving a murder plot, and it's up to Nixie and the Silver Six to untangle the truth. This trilogy features both crafting tips and recipes in the back of it. But yeah, the highlight of this series is definitely these 6 retired women and all the hijinks they get up to. The second senior sleuth mystery series I want to share with you is the Marlow Murder Club series. There are currently 5 books in the series. Well, the 5th one's coming out in July of 2026. So yes, right now there are 4 books in it. And number 1, the Marlow Murder Club, which the series was named after, is just excellent. I read it and loved it. So the protagonist is 77-year-old Judith. She's a crossword puzzle author, and she hears her neighbor Stefan gets shot while he's out swimming one day, actually skinny dipping in the Thames, and she tells the police the story, but they don't believe her. They don't believe what she heard and saw, and they want to write it off. Well, she's not going to let them write it off, so she decides to go about trying to solve the mystery of his murder herself. And she recruits two other elderly women in the neighborhood, and they are Susie, who's a dog walker, and Bex, who is the vicar's wife. Now, this is just a fantastic series, very similar, some would say, to the Thursday Murder Club, but different in that it's about three women who get together, not friends ahead of time, but they definitely become friends. And the character development in this series is so good. Now, I will mention that this book series has been turned into TV shows in England. And from what I've heard from other booktubers who've talked about this series, the TV show is much better done than the recent movie for the Thursday Murder Club. Now, while all those of us who have watched the Thursday Murder Club movie love the cast, I mean, it was stellar, and we love the setting. They got that just right. There were a lot of changes to it, and apparently with the Marlow Murder Club series, they are doing a series of TV shows, several episodes each, for each book. And so they're able to do a better, well, more thorough job of covering what's in the book. So I haven't seen that myself, but those I've heard from who did see it really have liked it. But I can tell you that these books are great. The author, Robert Thorogood, has done a wonderful job on not only developing the characters in this series, but also crafting excellent mysteries. So give the Marlow Murder Club series a try. Now, the third series in this category of senior sleuths is the one I mentioned where our protagonist is not technically a senior. She's only 52 years old, and that is the Letitia Rodd mystery series featuring Letitia Rodd, who is a 52-year-old widow. This series is set in 1850 in England, and I truly enjoyed this series. It is so cozy in the best way. For instance, the friendship between Letitia, a down on her luck, struggling for money widow, with her landlady, Mrs. Bentley, also a widow of a lower class, but it doesn't stop them from becoming great friends. It's just a wonderful friendship that, persists throughout the whole series. And then there's the relationship between Letitia and her brother, Frederick, who is a very famous and very successful criminal barrister. And Fred funnels special cases to his sister Letitia to work undercover. And she's been doing this for a while. In fact, when you start the first book, The Secrets of Wishtide, it's as if the author, Kate Saunders, plunges you right into Letitia's life. And we learn within the first chapter all about Letitia's circumstances, her friendship with Mrs. Bentley, and the fact that she's already solved several of these undercover mysteries for her brother. So let me now tell you what this first book in this Victorian England mystery series is about. Mrs. Letitia Rodd, age 52, is the widow of an archdeacon. Living in Hampstead with her confidant and landlady, Mrs. Bentley, who once let rooms to John Keats, Letitia makes her living as a highly discreet private investigator. Her brother, Frederick Tyson, is a criminal barrister living in the neighboring village of Highgate with his wife and 10 children. Frederick finds the cases and Letitia solves them using her arch intelligence, her iron discretion, and her immaculate cover as an unsuspecting widow. When Frederick brings to her attention a case involving the son of the well-respected, highly connected Sir James Calderstone, Letitia sets off for Lincolnshire to take up a position as the family's new governess, quickly making herself indispensable. But the seemingly simple case, looking into young Charles Calderstone's inappropriate love interest, soon takes a rather unpleasant turn. And as the family's secrets begin to unfold, Letitia discovers the Calderstones have more to hide than most. So these mysteries don't start off with a murder necessarily, but they eventually lead into one. And Letitia helps her brother come to the solution for each of these mysteries in a very clever and very entertaining way. I only wish there were more of these by Kate Saunders, and I liked the series so much I went looking for other books by her and found quite a few. She's written some children's books, middle grade books that have won all sorts of awards. So yeah, if you like her writing like I do, be sure to look for her other books too. Here's book number 2, The Case of the Wandering Scholar, and book number 3, The Mystery of the Sorrowful Maiden. The next category of cozy mysteries I have for you is the coffee category. I mean, what could be more perfect for the cool or freezing fall and winter months when you're snuggling up reading to be reading about hot, delicious beverages? So yes, I've got 3 coffee series for you. And the first one is written by the famous author, Tanya Kappas. Now, Tanya Kappas has written many series, and you're probably familiar with her Campers and Criminals series, which is so hilarious, so good, and so many books in it. And I love that one too. But when I recently learned that Tanya Kappas has a coffee mystery series, well, I couldn't wait to start it, and I wasn't disappointed. I read the first book, Scene of the Grind, and I was so impressed. It is so much fun. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Murder, gossip, and freshly brewed suspense await in this charming small-town cozy mystery, plus a lovable schnauzer named Pepper. Welcome to the Bean Hive Coffee House in Honey Springs, Kentucky, where the coffee's hot, the pastries are fresh, and the gossip could make the strongest espresso seem weak. Roxanne Bloom, better known as Roxy, a 30-something spunky lawyer-turned-barista, has swapped legal brews for brewing beans, opening the town's first coffee house on the newly revamped boardwalk. Life feels perfect as she reconnects with her quirky Aunt Maxie, old friends, and even a spark from her teenage years. But when Roxy finds Alexis Rourke, the beloved bookstore owner, dead among the stacks, a dark shadow falls over Honey Springs. With Aunt Maxie at the top of the suspect list and whispers of betrayal brewing in every corner, Roxy sets out to unravel the mystery before it ruins not just her aunt's reputation, but her new life in the town she's come to love. Now, let me tell you, after reading the first book in this series, I have to say, Tanya Kappas has come up with a winner. And there's 20 books in the series already. Well, actually, books 19 and 20 are coming out in 2026. Book 19 is Frosted Frappe Felony, coming out in January. And book 20 is Espresso Espionage, coming out in May. Now, again, these are set in Kentucky, and Tanya Kappas just has a way of making you feel the setting like almost no other author. And I just can't wait to get farther into this series. And in addition to the wonderful writing, she also includes so much food in the book, and there are recipes at the back, of course. The second series in the coffee category is the Bookstore Cafe Mystery Series by Alex Erickson. This series currently has 15 books in it. Well, the 15th is coming out in January, and I've read 6 or 7 now, and I love it. Now, this is one of those series that gets mixed reviews, and I think it's because some people aren't sure what to make of the quirky main character. So Chrissy, along with her good friend Vicky, moved from California to Pine Hills, Ohio, and opened a bookstore cafe. So Vicky's parents are actors, and she doesn't want to follow in their footsteps. And both of the young women just want a fresh start, something completely different. So yeah, they move to Ohio and start a bookstore cafe. They name their cafe Death by Coffee, which happens to be the title of Chrissy's father's most popular novel. Of course, they had no idea how fitting that name would come to be, and so quickly. On their very first day of business, Brendan Lawyer huffily takes his coffee to the grave. It seems he had a severe allergy to peanuts, but how could there have been nuts in his coffee? And who stole his emergency allergy medication? Fortunately, Chrissy's love of puzzles and mysteries leads her not only to Officer Paul Dalton, but also to many of her new neighbors who aren't terribly upset that the book is closed on Brendan. But one of them is a killer, and Chrissy needs to read between the lies if she wants to save her new store and live to see how the story ends. Now, like I said, Chrissy is kind of a different type of character, but she really grows on you. She can come across, I feel like, as a little pestering in the beginning because she's very upfront with people and questioning them, looking for clues to solve the mystery. But like I said, she really grows on you. And now by book 4 or 5, I really had come to enjoy her a lot. And the community that she builds up here is great. It's just a fun mystery series. And just look at these titles and covers. We've got Death by Tea, Death by Pumpkin Spice. Book 15, as I said, is coming out in January, and it is Death by Irish Coffee. So I wouldn't be surprised if you love this series from the get-go, but if you're a little unsure about the characters, keep reading, because I think you'll find you come to like them. Now, my last series in the coffee category is a great one. It is the Ground Rules mystery series set in Portland, Oregon. And wow, there probably isn't a better town in the entire U.S. for a coffee mystery series than Portland, Oregon. Now, this series has 5 books in it so far. The main character is Sage, and she runs a coffee truck. And that's kind of different, and I've really enjoyed this series so far. I've read 3 books in it, and I just ordered the 4th and 5th. So the first book in this series is Fresh Brewed Murder, and the second is Double Shot Death. Aren't these covers great? I love the colors. They're just so fresh and lively, and look at the details on the food truck there. So what's the first book about? Portland is famous for its rain, hipsters, craft beers, and coffee. Sage Kaplan has high hopes for her coffee truck, Ground Rules, which she runs with her business partner, Harley, a genius at roasting beans and devising new blends. That's essential in a city where locals have intensely strong opinions about cappuccino versus macchiato, especially in the case of one of Sage's very first customers. Sage finds the man's body in front of her cart, a fatal slash across his neck. There's been plenty of anger in the air from longtime vendors annoyed at Ground Rules taking a coveted spot in the food cart lot to protesters demonstrating against a new high-rise. But who was mad enough to commit murder? Sage is already fending off trouble in the form of her estranged con artist mother, who's trying to trickle back into her life. But when Sage's very own box cutter is discovered to be the murder weapon, well, she needs to focus on finding the killer fast before her business and her life come to a bitter end. Now, Emmeline Duncan is the author of this fantastic coffee mystery series, and she does an excellent job with the mystery, but also with the really interesting characters that she introduces us to right from the start. So definitely pick up the Ground Rules mystery series if you enjoy coffee and a good mystery. We've made it to the final category, and that is one of my absolute favorites, historical cozy mysteries. So I've got 3 authors for you, 2 old-time favorites, and each of these authors has written 2 best-selling series. So let's get started with Rhys Bowen. So this is one of the very first cozy mysteries I ever read, the Molly Murphy series. The first book in this 22-book series so far is Murphy's Law. Book 22, Vanished in the Crowd, is actually coming out in March of 2026. I have read through about book 19, I believe, and have all of them in physical form. And I just love this main character, Molly. She came from Ireland. She had committed murder in self-defense and so had to flee. She arrives in New York City in, 1901. And she is a midwife. And yeah, I'm not going to tell you much more than that. Other than that, she becomes good friends with another Irish person, a police officer, and together they start solving crimes in the, lower class immigrant section of New York City at the turn of the century. I can highly recommend this series by Rhys Bowen. I don't think you'll regret reading it. So the second series by Rhys Bowen that I have here to recommend for you is the Her Royal Spinus series, named after book number 1 in the series, Her Royal Spinus. Now, this is set in 1932, mostly in England, and it's all about Lady Georgiana, or Georgie. And this book is told in the first person. Let me read you a little from the back of this first book. My ridiculously long name is Lady Victoria Georgiana Charlotte Eugenie. 34th in line for the throne, I am, as they say, flat broke. When my brother Binky cut off my meager allowance, I bolted from Scotland and my engagement to Prince Siegfried. Bolted for London, that is, where I have A, built a fire in the hearth entirely on my own, thank you very much. B, fallen for an absolutely unsuitable Irish peer. C, made a few quid housekeeping incognita. And D, been summoned by the Queen herself to spy on her playboy son. Less than thrilled with this last bit, but I'm wondering what to do when an arrogant Frenchman who was trying to swipe our family estate winds up dead in my bathtub. Now, my new job is to clear my very long family name. So many people absolutely love this humorous royal spy series by Rhys Bowen, and I have to say, I kind of like it too. It is pretty funny. Quite different, I have to say, from Rhys Bowen's Molly Murphy series, so don't expect one to be like the other, except in the fact that the quality of writing is absolutely top-notch. Now, this series is ongoing. Book number 19 is actually coming out next week, I think on the 18th of November. It's called From Cradle to Grave. My third series and second author in the historical cozy mysteries category is Victoria Thompson. Book number 1 in her Gaslight mystery series is Murder on Astor Place. Now, the Gaslight mystery series was another one of the very first cozy mystery series I ever read, and I kind of held it up as a high bar for other historical cozy mysteries to reach. It is extremely well written by Victoria Thompson. And now it is set about 5 years earlier than the Rhys Bowen series. The protagonist in both of these series is a midwife, and both of these series are set in New York City. So people often get them confused. However, the Molly Murphy series is set more amongst the immigrants and the lower side of New York City, whereas the Victoria Thompson midwife mystery series, the Gaslight mysteries, feature the protagonist, Sarah, who is from a well-to-do upper-class background. Of course, for a variety of reasons, she is no longer in contact with her family and not living the upper class lifestyle anymore by any means when book number 1 starts in 1896. Now, there are 27 books in this series so far, and it is still ongoing. Book 27 came out in 2024, and it was titled Murder in Rose Hill. So what is the first book in the Gaslight mystery series, Murder on Astor Place, all about? After a routine delivery, Sarah visits her patient in a rooming house and discovers that another boarder, a young girl, has been killed. At the request of Sergeant Frank Malloy, she searches the girl's room and discovers that the victim is from one of the most prominent families in New York and the sister of an old friend. That powerful family, fearful of scandal, refuses to permit an investigation. But with Malloy's help, Sarah begins a dangerous quest to bring the killer to justice before death claims another victim. Now, I will say that this series borders on the edge of cozy in the sense that she is, like Molly in the Rhys Bowen series, working in close connection with a police detective. And more than that, though, the murders are a bit more graphically described than they generally are in your typical cozy mystery series. I think that is often the way when it comes to the historical cozies, although not always. Definitely not always. But certainly in this one it is. I love this series though, and I highly recommend it for anyone that wants the gritty feel of the turn of the 20th century New York City with a strong female protagonist. I don't think you can go wrong with the Gaslight Mystery series. And the second series by Victoria Thompson, much more recent and only 8 books out in it. Well, book number 8 is coming in 2026. This is the Counterfeit Lady mystery series featuring Elizabeth Miles. Book number 1 is City of Lies. It was published in 2017 and is set 100 years earlier in 1917 in New York City for the most part. And suffragists do definitely figure into this series, by the way. I think that this series is quite original as its protagonist is a con woman. Like most women, Elizabeth Miles assumes many roles. Unlike most, hers have made her a woman on the run. Elizabeth uses her guile to relieve so-called respectable men of their ill-gotten gains. But brutal and greedy entrepreneur Oscar Thornton has lost a great deal of money and he's out for blood. With his thugs hot on her trail, Elizabeth seizes the moment to blend in with a group of suffragists marching for their right to vote. She forms an unlikely bond with the wealthy matriarch of the group, whose son Gideon is the rarest of species, an honest man in a dishonest world. Elizabeth knows she's playing a risky game, and her deception could be revealed at any moment, possibly even by sharp-eyed Gideon. And Thornton is biding his time, waiting to strike. Elizabeth must draw on her wits and every last ounce of courage she possesses to keep her new life from being cut short by this vicious shadow from her past. I've read 3 books in the Counterfeit Lady series so far, and I am just loving them. Then I put them on hold for a while, and now I think when book number 8, City of Promises, comes out in July, I'm going to start over. I'm going to reread from the beginning and go through all 8 because they're just that good. And my final author and last 2 series in the historical cozy mysteries category is Cara Devlin. Now, I just read my first book by her yesterday, and it was amazing. I loved it, and I'm immediately starting book number 2, let me tell you. I also immediately looked up to see if she'd written any other series, and she had, so I'm going to be telling you about both of them. The series I started yesterday is called the Spencer and Reed Mysteries, and it features Leonora Spencer and Jasper Reed. Now, Leonora, otherwise known as Leo, and Jasper were both as children rescued by a Scotland Yard chief inspector who had recently lost his wife and children. And he sort of adopted them. He definitely adopted Jasper and even gave him his name. And he took in Leo for a while until he found some relatives of hers to take her in, but he's still very close friends with her. And so these two did grow up knowing each other and seeing each other frequently because of their common bond with the inspector. And now as adults, they're leading very different lives. And so Jasper is following in the steps of his adoptive father, a detective with Scotland Yard. And Leo, following in the footsteps of her uncle who took her in and who is a police coroner, helps him out in his postmortems and such, even though that is definitely not allowed in this time period of Victorian London. So this series is another that borders on the edge of cozy, mostly because, in addition to the fact that the two of these work together closely as partners, even though Jasper is not a fan of that and doesn't think she should be doing that, they do. Often as well, I think I label some of these historical mysteries as being on the border of cozy, in addition to sometimes describing the crime a little more graphically than what we see in your typical cozy, as pushing that edge because of the victims of the crimes. And by that I mean in your typical cozy mystery, the victim is usually someone the whole town hated, who very much annoyed, if not much worse, bullied or took advantage of many people, perhaps even committed some crimes themselves. And so you don't really lose much sleep over the fact that they were murdered. In some of these historical mysteries, the victims are often innocents. They're often people who were poor, who had a hard life, maybe prostitutes, sometimes even children. I've never found them to dwell on the victims, but they aren't just an easy scapegoat for murder that we can, push out of the way and just focus on the fun of solving the murder. These are much more realistic to life with not a lot of humor involved usually. Now, there are exceptions. I mean, the Her Royal Spinous mystery series definitely has tons of humor, but these Spencer and Reed mysteries definitely are more gritty and realistic. I don't find them to be at all off-putting or too violent at all, but I'm just giving you a heads up so that you can decide for yourself if you want to try them out. Book number 1, Shadow at the Morgue. Definitely a 4.5 if I were to rate it. I would have rated it a 5. You know why? The only reason I marked it down is that first books in series are hard to do in the sense that there's so many elements you want to present, not just about the mystery within that book, but for the whole series. And I actually think that Cara Devlin did a fantastic job setting up the entire series. She gave us wonderful backstory on both of the two main characters. You really get a feel for the setting, and there's sub-characters in it that I really enjoyed. The only reason I marked it down is it was a bit hard for me to keep track of all of the characters involved in the mystery. There were a lot of, not subplots, but just a lot of threads to this mystery. I felt like I needed to create a murder board, and then I would probably have given it a 5-star. And I might do that when I head into book 2 if it's similar. But I really enjoyed this mystery. I really enjoy these two characters, and I can't wait to explore more about the overarching series mysteries related to the backstories of both Leo and Jasper. I am just extremely curious about both of those. Yeah, so can't wait to dive into book 2. There are 5 books, if I haven't said that yet, in this series so far. Well, book 5 comes out in January. It's called Tears for the Forsaken. And as I said, I looked up to see what else Cara Devlin had written, and she already has a best-selling series called the Bow Street Duchess Mysteries, which are complete with 7 books. Book number 1 is Murder at the Seven Dials, and book number 7, which came out in March of 2024, called Taken to the Grave, and it was labeled as the final conclusive book to that series. So I'm really looking forward to starting that series too. From book 1 synopsis: a murdered opera singer, a duke drenched in her blood. For Bow Street officer Hugh Marsden, the brutal killing is a straightforward case. Ever since his exile from polite society, the chance to arrest a high and mighty peer of the realm has never presented itself. Hugh won't snub the opportunity now. But Audrey Sinclair, the Duchess of Fernier, is certain her husband is wrongly accused, and she's determined to prove it to the arrogant Bow Street officer, even if she must employ her most peculiar ability, or perhaps curse, to guide her investigation. After all, a duchess can do as she pleases. Exasperated with the meddling duchess, Hugh is convinced she's protecting her own secrets and the duke's. But when Audrey's discoveries persuade him to believe the true killer is still at large, he has no choice. He has to join her in the hunt, if only to keep her from becoming the next victim. The reviews on this series are outstanding, so I can't wait to get to it, but I am going to read the 5 books in the Spencer and Reed mystery series first, because I don't want to get all the characters mixed up, and also it gives me something to look forward to. So I hope you have enjoyed this dive into the world of cozy mysteries and these 4 categories that I've shared with you today. Books you can enjoy reading all fall and winter and throughout the whole year, of course. And remember, the next cozy mystery video I'm going to be bringing you is going to be all about mysteries with very unusual themes that you probably have never heard of. I'm really looking forward to sharing that one with you come the beginning of December. Until then, I hope you're enjoying all of your reading in November, whether it be cozy or otherwise. Don't forget your nonfiction books. If you haven't seen my nonfiction pile of possibilities video, I'll link it for you here at the end. And whatever kind of reading you're doing currently, be sure to let me know down in the comments below. I always appreciate your recommendations. There's always room on my TBR list for more good books. Happy reading, everyone. Until the next video.